Today I will show you how you can create the GDPR consensus pop-up in your game using the new UI toolkit. If you want to help support this channel, hit the subscribe button below this video, turn on notifications so you will not miss any future video I release. So as you can see on the screen, here is my game, and I want to create the pop-up to ask for the permission from the user to display the personalized advertisement. So let's start by creating the UI document. So I will just right click, UI toolkit, and then UI document. I'm gonna name this document GDPR pop-up. Okay, so once you create the document, you will see the UI document will be attached. And over here you have the panel settings and the source asset. The source asset is where we're gonna place our UI, which is going to be created in the UXML document. So let's now go to the project, and I'm going to create my UI under the resource folder and then UI. So I will just right click, create, and now let's select UI toolkit and then UI document. And I will call it adds consensus. Okay, once you create this file, let's double click on it, and you should have the UI builder open, in which we're going to design our UI. So let's first of all set few things. So first of all, let's go on the top of the window, and from this drop down, make sure you have the Unity default runtime theme selected. If you don't select that, you might see some of the UI elements looks different in the UI builder and in your game. And then the other thing, I'm gonna hit the fit canvas, so I have exactly the same size as my game. Now let's start with adding the visual element. So under the library, I'm gonna grab the visual element and drop it onto the adds consensus. Right, so the visual element will cover the entire area of the screen, and go to the flex option and set the grow to 1. So this will make sure that the entire screen is covered, so you cannot press anything behind the pop-up. And now I'm gonna set the background for it, so we have a little bit darker background below our pop-up. So go under the background, select the color. I have the black color selected, so I'm gonna change the alpha channel. I think like that should be okay. Okay, so now let's grab another visual element and drop it onto our visual element, so it's become a child of it. Now double click on the visual element, and I'm gonna call it GDPR window. So now let's grab another visual element and drop it on the GDPR window, and let's rename it to be window. So this is going to be our window, and then inside our window we're going to have two parts. We're going to have a header and a body. So I'm going to grab another visual element, drop it onto the window, and I'm going to rename it to be window header, and then grab another one, drop it onto the window, and let's rename this one to be window body. Okay, so now let's select the window, and I want my window to be white, so I'm gonna scroll right under the background and select the color to be white. Okay, and I also want to have the rounded corner on the window, so looks more like a window on the iPhone. So I will scroll down to the border, and I will select the radius on the corner for the top left to be 10 pixels and the top right to be 10 pixels. Okay, so if you zoom in, you will see there is a curve around the edges. Okay, now let's select our window header. Let's scroll down, find the label, and drag the label onto the window header. So here's gonna be our header. Let's modify this a bit. Let's scroll down to the text. Let's change the font size to be 20. I'll make it bold, and I will change the color to be black. Okay, that looks good. And then I will also change the align to be center. And also I will change the wrap mode to be wrap. Okay, so if in the case like we're gonna type longer than the area we have here, it's gonna be moved to the next line. So that looks good. Now we can populate this with some text. So I'm gonna put the text data privacy constants. So scroll right at the top where you see the text, and then replace the label with the text you want. Okay, so let's do the same for the window body. So we're gonna grab our text, drop it onto the window body, and I'm gonna change some settings for the text as well. So let's scroll down to the text. Let's change the font size to be 14. Make sure it's align in the center. And also there is a wrap mode enabled. And let's populate this with the text. So I'm gonna copy the text I want to put. Okay, so we have our text. Now we need to also add some buttons for the player to press on. So I will just collapse this Windows header in window body. And now let's grab our visual element and drop it onto the GDPR window. So it's just sitting next to the window itself. And I'm gonna call it buttons. And then we want to have a 2 button. So I just first of all gonna create one button. So I just gonna grab the button and drop it onto the buttons. And this button will be personalized. And I'm gonna also change the button text to be personalized. So let's scroll down to the text and let's change the font size to be 18. I will make it bold as well. And also let's change the color for the button. So the color will be white. So under the background I will change the color. And also let's change the margin and padding. So currently margin is set to 4. So as you can see, if you scroll in, the button does not cover entire area of the pop-up. So let's change it to 0. And that looks much better. Okay, so we have the window and the button. Now let's actually create another button. So I will just grab button and put it on the buttons. And this is gonna be the random button. And let's change the text to random. Okay, and we want this random button to look exactly like the personalized. So there are 2 ways to do this. You can set it everything by hand, the same as we did. Also, if you don't want to do that, we can create the style sheet. So this UI currently, if you're familiar with the web development, this is something like a CSS class to set the look of your UI elements. So we want to export the style from this button. So let's select the personalized button, go under the style sheet. Let's put the name for the class. So I will call it button style. And then let's select the extract inline style to new class. Okay, and now you should see the pop-up if you don't have the USS file created. So let's create one. So add to new USS. And you need to select where you want to store it. So I'm gonna go under the asset. I will select the resources, UI, and I'm gonna create new folder, USS, and I will call it block adventure. Style. Okay. Hit save. Once you do that, your new USS file should be created and should be automatically added. and you should see the bottom style in it. So now if you just grab this bottom style and drop it onto the random bottom, the random bottom will look exactly the same as the personalized one. So there is one more modification I want to do. I want those buttons to be side by side, no, not below. So in order to do that, we can change the content order, the direction on the flex parameter. So if we select the buttons, we can go under the flex, and as you see, you have the multiple direction you can select. You can select the column, the reverse column. So if you press that, you see the button change the order, or you can select the row. So we're going to select the row, so the buttons are next to each other, but they are not equal now. So in order to make them appear on two sides, I will go under the align, justify content, and then I will just put the space between. So those two buttons will be moved to the sides, and now we want those buttons to cover entire area, the 50% of the area of the pop-up. So I will just go to the button style, and because this style is applied to both of those buttons, I will change the size. Under the size, I will change the width to be percentage, and I will just put 50%. Okay, so each of the button will cover the 50% of the area of the size of the pop-up. And now there is last thing. I want to have the curvature on this corner and this corner. So I will go to the personalized button and go under the border and set the radius for the bottom left to be 10 pixels. And on the random, I will set the border on the bottom right to be 10 pixels. So our pop-up looks okay now. So now we can actually hit the preview, and you can see the pop-up in action. As you see, there is also one more bit we want to change, because when we actually select the button, you cannot see that any of the button has been selected or has been hovered over. So we're going to add different color when you're hovering over the button, because otherwise this pop-up doesn't look alive. So let's press the preview again, so to go out, and under the style, I will just right click on the button style and then duplicate it, and I will just rename this new style. We leave it button style : hover. So this is the hovering state of the buttons. And now now let's select this button style hover, scroll down to background color, and I will change the background color. I want to have maybe like a reddish background. Okay, and now when you hit preview, you should see that when you hover over any of the button, the new color will be applied. Okay, let's also move this pop-up to be in the middle of the screen. We have created the visual element to cover entire screen area. So if you select the first visual element we have created, you can go to the justify content and you can set it to center. And also align items, you can set it to center. So in this case, the button will be always in the center of the screen. And also I want to have like a small gap between the sides, so the pop-up does not cover it's not stretched across the whole screen. So I can select the GDPR window. I can go to the size, select the percentage. I want this pop-up to cover the 90% of the screen. So I have the 10% left, 5% left on each side. So the pop-up will be always in the center of the screen. Okay, so this looks good. I think we can save everything now. So I'm going to hit Ctrl S on my keyboard. And there is one error, which I actually see. Not sure, I think this is something from the UI Toolkit, but I'm going to ignore it for now. So let's go back to our game. So in the game, we cannot see this pop-up yet. This is because when you select the GDPR pop-up object we have created, we have not assigned a source asset. So let's do that now. I'm going to go back to my project, And under the resources UI, where I created the UXML document, I'm gonna grab it and drop it onto the source asset. And now you can see our asset is in. We have the pop-up. So let's actually test this pop-up on different resolution of the screen. So currently I have set my build settings, and I have selected the Android platform. So if you are on a mobile platform, you should have in this version of the Unity 2021, you should be able to select the simulator, and you can check actually how your game looks on different resolution of the screen. So I have currently Apple iPad, so let's test it on maybe iPhone 6 Pixel, LG. So seems like the content looks okay on most of them, but just to be extra sure, because sometimes you may end up you might have a very weird resolution of the phone, is depending what the user is using. So inside the UI toolkit, it's very easy to actually set the scaling behavior of your pop-up. If you select the GDPR pop-up and then go to the panel settings, you have the panel settings here. If you double click on it, you will see that you have some scaling modes selected. So currently I have the scale mode set to scale with screen size. But I think by default, if you create a new element, you will have this constant pixel size selected. So in this case, you will see that the pop-up is squished and it does not look good on different devices. Okay, so if you want your pop-up to be responsive, just change it to scale with screen size. You can set the reference resolution. So I usually use the same resolution I'm using in my UI builder. So if you select the UI builder and you select the add consents, you will see that the size, the reference size you have been created the UI for. So I have the width 496 and the height 586. So I usually put the same width and the height inside here. Okay, so my pop-up looks exactly as I designed it. And also this is very important to set the screen match mode parameter. So by default is set width to be 0, match to be 0. So if this is the case, the window will be changing its size on the height, so it will be stretched, but the width will never change. So this will cause some distortion of your window, and in some cases this might looks very weird. So I usually keep this match value to be 0.5. So in this case the width and the height will be scaled up, will be resized. So the window should look okay on every single devices now. Okay, so we have the window set up. Now let's add some behavior to the buttons. So in the UI toolkit, in order to handle the behavior, we need to create a new C# script. So I'm gonna go under my scripts folder. I will go to the privacy, right click, create C# script, and there's gonna be the GDPR pop-up. Okay, and now let's open the script. Just before we actually open the script, there is one more thing I want to mention. So because in this game I will use the Glay plugin to handle all of the advertisement in my game, I will gonna implement the button behavior to actually handle that plugin. But you can use this this pop-up to basically any other plugin you use, because this is basically how you set up the ads only. So just to give you some more information, here is the plugin I'm using. So this is the Glay plugin. Right, there is a documentation about it. So this is the Glay mobile ads plugin I'm using. Okay, so if you are interested, I have purchased this plugin recently, so haven't tested yet. So this is going to be the first game I'm going to put this plugin in. Okay, so let's go back to our script. Let's open it. So the first thing, we want to make sure that this script is attached to the object which already have the UI document. So just to make sure this is the case, we can put the square braces and then put required component and then put type of UI document. And as you see, once I put this UI document in, the resharper, the plugin I'm using in the Visual Studio, automatically added this Unity Engine UI elements. So make sure you add this line in, otherwise this class will not be recognized. So as you see, it's not recognized. Okay, so we can only attach, if we're gonna attach this script to the object which does not have this component will be added automatically. So now let's remove the update method and then the comments from here. Okay, so there are two variables I want to create. So first one will be private button, and this is gonna be the personalized button. And then there's gonna be another one, private button is gonna be random button. Okay, and then in the start, I actually want to add one more variable in. This is because the Glay plugin is storing the value in the player prefs. So I want to have ability to clear the player prefs from the editor. So I will just put the private bool clear player prefs to be equal to false, and this is gonna be the serialized field. Okay, so inside the start method, I want to make sure first of all if the application.isEditor is equal to false. If this is the case, I want to make sure that clear player prefs is equal to false. Okay, so if I accidentally set this clear player prefs in the release game to true, this will make sure it's unchecked. And then I want to put if the clear player prefs, I want to do the player prefs dot delete all. Okay, so this is in regards to the plugin I'm using. But now let's actually go back to our UI. So first of all, what I want to do, I want to cache the root visual element. So I will put var root will be equal to get component, and I want to get component of a type of the UI document dot root visual element. Okay, so this is the root element over which we're going to make request for the specific UI element. So first of all, let's initialize our personalized button to be equal to root dot q for the query, and we want to put the type of the element we are making request, which is the button. And now we need to put the name, and the name need to be exactly the same as you put in your game. So if you switch back to Unity, switch back to UI Builder and go to the buttons, you will see we need to use exactly those names, personalized and the random, in our script. Otherwise Unity will not be able to find the elements. So make sure you use the same names. So if I go back to the Visual Studio now, I will put the personalized, and then also for the random button I will put the random. Okay, so we have our two buttons initialized. Now we need to add the on-click event. So I will just create two more functions. First one will be private void on personalize button pressed, and then another one will be private, void on random button pressed. Okay, so in the start method, I just gonna grab our personalized button dot clicked, make sure you're just selecting the event, plus equal, and then we want to pass this function, and the same for the random button dot clicked plus equal on random button pressed. Right, so we're gonna, whenever any of those buttons is clicked, we're gonna call these functions. So now for the plugin I'm using, I'm gonna actually use the functions from the Glame plugin now. So if advertisement dot instance dot user consent was set is equal to false. So if the player has not set the user consents, so this function is actually checking if the player prefs value is set. I just gonna game object dot set active will be equal to false, to true. So if the consent was never set, I just gonna display the pop-up. Otherwise, I'm gonna hide the pop-up. First of all, initialized the advertisement, and then game object dot set active to false. So I'm gonna hide the pop-up. Okay, so if our pop-up is displayed inside those functions, I'm gonna actually call advertisement dot instance dot set user consents to be true, and then advertisement dot instance dot initialize, and then game object dot set active to be false. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same for the random button. Just set the user consents to false, and that's it. So those functions, the advertisement is actually from the Glame plugin. So if you don't using this plugin, you don't have to put this bits in. You can put whatever functionality you like in those functions. Okay, so now I'm gonna save everything. I'm gonna go back to Unity. Let's switch to our game view, and I'm gonna select the GDPR pop-up, and gonna grab that GDPR pop-up script onto the GDPR pop-up. Okay, and just for the safety, I'm gonna clear the prefab. So this is the check, and now let's actually play. Okay, so as you see, we cannot press anything under the pop-up because we had that darken visual element. Okay, and then you see our buttons working fine. So I'm gonna change the simulator to game so we can better see. So as you can see, the hover color working fine. So if I switch to the console and I press the personalize button, the function is called and the personalized value is set to true. So if I uncheck the clear player prefabs now and press play, the privacy pop-up is not showing because we already set that. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful for you. If it was, please consider subscribing to the channel and leave a like. So otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.